Hello everyone. Good morning and thanks for joining us today on this pre-conference day, first day. It's not easy, but thanks for your efforts. So myself, Pranesh, and you can see that this is going to be our agenda, which has been changed a bit like what Meenakshi ma'am was saying. So we have this lecture skills, flip class, and how to use technology. All these three would be dealt by me. I'm sorry for that you have to go through me for a long time. Hopefully we'll make it easier. So what we thought was I'll do the lecture skills and we'll try to play around a bit. That's fine. Yep. So what I did was I kind of consolidated the talks and put it like this. Right? This is going to be the three lectures, right? So just to give an overview of what we are trying to say is that lecture skills. So the teacher is lecturing the students. We assume that the students are not learning beforehand. So they are partying. They are like this Bobby Deol in Animal. They are playing, partying, they're happy. Then they come to the next day for the class. They don't do anything. They either sleep or they listen. And they go home and read. So we're not sure what they're doing, but we assume that they are reading. That's the first case. So we'll focus on how can we lecture them when they don't have enough prior knowledge, right? When they don't learn before. And how can we use the technology to make their learning much effective in the lectures. And then we're going to flip it, which means that we're going to give them some homework so that they are reading beforehand. They're coming to the class so that we don't teach, but we rather engage them, make them participate, and then they go back and learn again. So that's what the whole picture is. So this is going to be the film. Okay, let's take one by one. The first chapter is lecturing skills. Probably the most used way, the most employed way of education in medicine and elsewhere is going to be lectures. How many of you lecture? Great. How many of you teach undergraduate students? Okay. Postgraduates? Optometrists, nurses? Okay, good. So yeah, we are teaching eye care professionals across various domains. So that will be really interesting to know. And all of you lecture. Do you think lecture is the most commonly performed way of teaching? Raise of hands. Okay. Do you think lecture is the most or the least effective way of teaching? Yes. The most commonly used, but it is the least effective. That's really unfortunate, right? But we'll try to make sure the lectures are more interesting. That's going to be the goal. This is my personal opinion or my take on the essential skills. I've kind of modified my previous talks on how to take lectures. I've kind of distilled the entire concept into these 4 E's: empathy, elementalism, engagement, and elocution. The first E is come early to the lecture hall. It took half an hour for me to find where this glass door is. So early, that's one E. Eat well, that's another E. But apart from that, the skills, first E. I think Prashant sir has beautifully laid out the foundation for me. He talked about the adult learning principles, which we can effectively apply. Empathy, simply put, putting ourselves, the teachers, into the students' shoes and thinking from their perspective. That's a key skill, actually. As a teacher, we are giving the message to the audience, right? So we have to ask, who is our audience? Who are they? Are they postgraduates? Are they undergraduates, optometrists, nurses? And what do they know already? And what they do not know? This is very important to understand. If we don't know, using technology, which we'll discuss later, can help in that. And how they want to know. Probably the most important question. How they want to know something. How they learn is not how we learnt. There's a big generation gap. I'm 30 years old, but I'm still saying there's a big generation gap between me and my students, right? And it's really interesting and really inspiring the way they learn. And it's important for us to understand how they are learning. And please note that not all students learn the same way. How student A learn is not equal to how student B learn. Okay, my grandmom will say all 5 fingers are not of the same size. Very philosophical, but profound truth. Not all of us are the same. All of us learn differently. All of us behave differently. So this is going to be the teacher. Let me present these 152 slides, and we will see the smiling faces, which is here, goes to frown, and some of them sleep. What do you think is the average attention span? Any guesses? Depend on the speaker. Yeah, of course, yeah. That's true. On average, not in the class, but average, like throughout. They made a study. 10 minutes? 8.25? You think that is minutes? Seconds. Exactly, sir. We are an Instagram generation, Reels generation. So how we learned is not going to be the same anymore. Very different, actually. That's the first thing, understanding how they are learning. Because I'm learning a lot. Previously, I used to make videos which are 40 minutes on my YouTube channel. And I realized that nobody watches that. Okay? The average duration of watching is 1 minute. For a 40-minute video, 50-minute video, I was like, why am I struggling for 50 minutes talking? They just watch only 1 minute. But that's the truth. So, yeah. Technology, distractions, right? So, we don't need this drilling machine to keep them distracted. Okay? Even we talking. Yeah, that would be a good idea. Drilling the ideas into the brain. Analogy, which we'll talk about that also. So that's the first thing. Because now what I'm doing is I'm trying to make these, let me see if I have got that. Right. It's me. I'm showing all my history to you, but anyways. This is what I'm trying to make now. Not 40-minute videos, but 1-minute videos. When I showed this to my students in UK, they said, we don't watch YouTube these days. We are TikTok generations. Then I made efforts to open a TikTok account. Now I'm making videos on TikTok. So you can see that one. And they don't want all these things. They don't want faceless. They want face. So first is empathy, or understanding how our students are learning. The second is elementalism. It's kind of a philosophical thing. What I'm trying to understand is we are trying to split a big concept into small, easily to digestible chunks of information. That's what we mean elementalism. For example, there's a big molecule, you're splitting that into basic elements, giving the students simpler, smaller portions. And mind mapping, which we'll discuss in the technology, really facilitates that. This is one of the examples of the lecture, what I take for my students, undergraduates, as well as trainees. Take a big chunk and split into multiple pieces. It's one example. What I mean is, when we are teaching a topic, for example, I'm taking acute red eye, it is important for us to give them the bits and pieces of the topic, the differential diagnosis for acute red eye. That's one way to go about. Sometimes when we are going to talk a topic on acute angle closure glaucoma, it is important for us to go back and see what is the bigger picture. So elementalism means breaking a big component into different chunks and putting that chunk into the bigger picture to give a bird's eye view. Mind mapping is a fantastic tool to facilitate that. The eagle's eye view. The third E is engagement. And Professor Helena would be talking how to make the classes more interactive. But when I mean engagement, it's giving an example, reinforcing the concept. And that can be done by two ways, the story or analogies. Interesting, the story, you find that in history. Give histories, problem-based learning, the best way to stimulate the students' attention. Again, adult learning principle, like what Prashant sir was mentioning. Appealing to their practical relevance is the key. This is something which I really love, to bring analogies, to bring different creative ideas relating to the topic what I'm teaching. Right? So what I mean is that I'm giving you an example or a metaphor so that we are drilling the information into their brains, making it unforgettable. This is one example what I do. I recently started to learn cooking. So then I found that there are different pans available. When I saw those pans, I struck that, okay, looks like this glaucomatous damage, right? Progressive cupping. Yeah? So when you are in ophthalmology, everything looks like that. So I'm always trying to find a way to find an example. Medu vada looks like optic disc. But students in UK, they don't eat medu vada, they eat bagels. Okay, so I showed them bagels, saying that this is going to be the optic rim, neuroretinal rim, that's the disc, and the central part is the cup, and this is notching, glaucomatous optic nerve damage. So tell them in a way which they can understand. It may be the silliest way, but it works. The last is going to be elocution. Elocution means that kind of an abstract thing to understand, but the whole point is when we know why we are teaching, when we understand who the audience is, when we understand how we should teach, and we know what we are teaching, that is going to be a clarity in communication. That comes into practice naturally. And when there's a clarity in the communication, we can be an elocutionist. We can be an eloquent, persuasive, fluent speaker. Thank you so much for attention. I hope I've given these E's. And there's going to be the next one, the another E, that is E smart, electronics, technology. That's going to be the fifth E, but which we'll have after this. So I would invite Meenakshi ma'am. Thank you so much for the opportunity and